All right. Let's see how this is going. That's a little bit twisted. Is that better? Let's see. What the heck? All right, so I'm gonna use I'm gonna start using markers such as warm gray number 2 and warm gray number 1 to establish the flesh tones. I tend to always start with the lightest color. Which is, sorry about the minor adjustments here. That camera is resting on my shoulder, so it's always a little bit moving. Try to make sure everything stays in place for you guys. Technology. There we go. So I'm gonna start with flesh tones. I have already a pretty good idea of what my light source is gonna be. It's actually obviously gonna be coming from the bottom of the image, as if she was jumping into action. What I usually try to do is, on a piece like that that requires or not a background, you can suggest a form of background by dealing with the light a certain way. Like, for example, you don't have to draw the buildings in the back to make people understand that she is jumping from the building. It has to do as much with the lighting as it has with the angle and whatever pose the character is striking. So right now I'm working all the very detailed shadows that I know are going to be affecting the volumes, like lips, the cast shadow of the glasses on the forehead, because those will help me define where it should stay brighter, where it could be darker. And if I do that once it's already, all the big masses, all the big shapes have already been established, then I won't be able to reserve an area for those dramatic lighting if I've covered everything already with the colors, with the gray tones. You know what, I might be pushing this actually. Trying to figure out where my camera is. That might be a better option actually. All right. So right now I'm not taking in consideration what should be darker, what should be lighter in terms of the actual colors of the objects. Like I know the sleeves are green and the front and the back of the jacket of the shirt are red as well as the R and is black and yellow. This is not gonna be my concern right now because I'm thinking more in terms of light accuracy. I will make everything that needs to be darker dark later. Right now I'm putting a very light layer of gray. On the parts that need to. I'm also using a warm gray because I started my penciling with blue, which is making everything colder, and so in order trying to get a little bit more of that flesh warmth, organic, alive feel to the character. I'm trying to bring this back with the gray, with the warm gray, not something it would be harder to achieve with a cool gray to start with. You would convey another feeling about the art if I was to do that with a cool gray, like even number 1 and number 2, it would be more like, for a character like Mr. Freeze, it would make totally sense, for example. See those two little dots or lines of shadow above the eyebrows are actually working as a reminder to later on maybe emphasize that shadow once the line art is going to be applied again over the pencils. By the way, the line art is going to be pencils in this case to keep everything soft, not as harsh as if it was black ink with one of those thin pens. So now comes the time of taking in consideration. Oh darn! That's when you need a third arm. There you go. So this is when it's the time to consider the cast shadow of the whatever object is going over another one, like for example the arm, and part of the back on the cape is going to be projecting a shadow on the cape, and obviously this leg is going to be projecting a shadow over the upper body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline with this marker, which is going to fade out. It looks like it's really dark at first, but with the alcohol evaporating from the marker, it actually becomes a reasonable gray tone. Not too dark, as you can see here in the back, or in the top part of the art. It's already evaporating somehow. So it's serving the purpose of being a light enough color that will allow me, for example, I know the belt is black and the buckle is gold, so I will just keep this gray for the buckle, and I'll probably use a darker gray up to the point where I'm going to use the darkest one to do the belt. And the brain and the eye of the viewer will actually acknowledge this part as being dark as black, even though it's not really black. It's all a matter of handling the contrasts, making a choice actually on how dark you want to have that piece in the end, or how more like subtle and gray tones. Sometimes it works. I mean, it works to have like harsh grays, and the opposite is usually harsh whites. So, and you don't have in between, but it conveys a more dramatic lining. It's not exempt of subtlety though. Just have to look at the work of Chris Samney or Alex Toth to see how subtle that medium can be, and that technique can be. It's just the brain does all the work when you resort to that technique. It's up to the viewer to actually unconsciously adapt and do the fill the blanks. This one is more, this technique is more taking you by the hand, showing you step by step, and actually, showing you step by step what are the different degrees of gray, of subtleties in light and shadows you can have. I'm not saying one is faster than the other, because the other one takes a lot, the black and white, like straight black and white, takes a lot of preparation, of selective decision on what to keep, what not to keep, what to show, what not to show, what to add details to, what to leave completely undefined, because the brain's going to process that anyway. I'm not going to fill that area. Or I could, because it's not actually not that dark. It's more like a green, if I remember well. I think it's green. We can always make it a dark green. So I'm gonna just add, for example, here, I'm gonna add just as a note, because there's a fold here on my R emblem. This is the fold, this is the part of the fold that's in the shadows. This is the part that's in the light. And I'm just doing this here, so it's going to suggest that there's a fold just like here over the chest. There's a fold, and then this is catching the light. And I might add a few more here as note. Those are going to fade out in the main shadow of the knee. But they're, if I work close enough, I'll still be able to track them down and then maybe exaggerate them later on. It's all about figuring out what has a volume and what is casting a shadow. If I was logical, I would put this in the shadow, try to put the shoe, the top of the shoe here, casting a shadow over the crotch, which actually works because we don't want to get all the attention on that part. That's the tricky part with this kind of pose. I'm gonna do the inside of the shoe also and the shadow with a little shadow here fading out, because this is catching the light now. The ankle. And of course, there is a very thin shadow on the knee here. And that's about it. I will probably add detail to this terms and contrast once I've pulled all the rest of the contrast with darker markers. Alright, so let's see. Oh, this is why. This is not really holding. I'm going to switch markers. Jump to a warm gray number 2. Might not be enough. Might be actually too subtle. So I'm gonna go for a number 3. All right. I don't know if you guys are making comments or anything, but for some reason I can't see those showing up on my screen. Maybe I did something wrong. There you go, I can read. Hey Bruno. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I can read them apparently now. All right, so I'm going to now that I'm using a darker marker, I'm gonna do the glasses, and I'm gonna do something that usually is a beginner's mistake, but I'm going to do it on purpose. I'm going to do everything dark, not taking in consideration where the light comes from, because that will actually... Does it take to outline a drawing like this? Well, I prepared it ahead of time, just a little bit before the screening, and took me maybe 20 minutes. Not being distracted because I'm working from home. It's another story when I'm at a convention, for example. All right, so I'm gonna do something here. This is okay. This might be easier now. Yes. All right, so I covered the whole glasses, the frame actually, not taking in consideration the fact that there should be some reflection of the light from below. And that was just to show that you can still catch that up, you can still fix that with a white marker later on. What do you mean? Approximated time to get it done? I have no idea because I'm using the camera and I'm talking. That's usually distracting. I'm also only using one hand. Christophe, c'est toi ça? I'm using one hand to open the markers, close the markers, change the markers. Salut Christophe. So it's taking that little time addition, added on and on. This is the kind of stuff that makes you. But I would say one like that, if I'm totally focused on it, would be like an hour or something. So now I'm already preparing the areas that are going to have heavy makeup. And that's actually going to help me define a little bit more of the areas that are darker in shape. And now that this is darker, I'm considering probably casting a shadow of the nose here on the bottom of the forehead, and then adding over it a white layer of reflection of the glass from the goggles. So I'm gonna keep going with that number 3. Oh, I forgot I had teeth. I can open the caps of the markers with my teeth. That's true. So I'm gonna slowly add some contrast to the areas that I consider should be a little bit darker. See, I'm avoiding the parts that are closing the shirt, because those are supposed to be gold yellow, so they need to be lighter in this area when there's a cast shadow over it. Now I'm gonna mark that R shape a little bit more, keep track of where the shadows should be on this. I'm of course going to cast. Now I'm going to use number 2 because I can see that this number 3 marker is already going a little bit too harsh, and I want to have another grade here for the flesh. Ooh, that number 2 needs some refilling big time. Yeah, it's not working as it should. So I'm just gonna put the camera on its tripod so you can see without too much shaking what it looks like while I'm doing my refill on this number 2. Let's hope I don't switch off the communication between you guys and this work in progress. Should be good now.